With the emergence of star quarterback Josh Allen and incredible play calling by coaches Sean McDermott and Brian Dable, the Buffalo Bills are not only on their way to having one of the best seasons in the NFL, but one of the best seasons that they've had in franchise history. With a win tomorrow against the Dolphins, it'll be just the third time that the Buffalo Bills have gone 13-3 in an NFL season. And even if they don't win against Miami tomorrow, it'll just be the sixth time in their 61 seasons getting 12 or more wins in a year. The Bills as a franchise, even though they have 4 Super Bowl appearances, are a team in which is 437, 486, and 8 in their career as a franchise. So it's a franchise that never really has seen a lot of winning. However, when they are at the top of the league or when they are in the league as a championship contender, we see their fans come out and be one of the best fan bases in the league. And even when they're not winning, this fan base is one of the best fan bases in the league. So it's great to me to see this team being able to give that amazing fan base an incredible season and possibly a championship contending season. With that being said, the one team that Buffalo really has to worry about, and the one team that really every NFL team has to worry about, is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bills ended up losing a tough Monday night game in the middle of October a few weeks ago, and it was by far the worst offensive game that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills have had against not only the Chiefs, but in their whole season in general. And it seemed like a bit of a surprise given the fact that this Kansas City Chiefs team was viewed as having not a very good defense. In fact, it was probably viewed as being a below average defense. However, not only the Buffalo Bills struggled that game, but it was by far Josh Allen's worst game, maybe even in his career as the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. He only threw for 122 yards and had a completion percentage of 51.8. However, since that Week 6 loss against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills are on a complete tear offensively. They're averaging about 410 yards per game, 32 points per game, and Josh Allen has also been on a tear. He's averaged about 290 yards passing per game, 18 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's also chipped in 5 touchdowns on the ground and even caught himself a touchdown as well. The only loss that the Buffalo Bills have since that loss against the Kansas City Chiefs was a 2-point loss in Arizona. And if you remember, that's the game that Kyler Murray had the Hail Murray to DeAndre Hopkins to end the game. And if that play doesn't happen, we're looking at a 9-0 Bills team who not only offensively is on a complete tear, but defensively has stepped it up as well. The thing that absolutely destroyed the Buffalo Bills in that game against the Kansas City Chiefs a couple months ago was the fact that they could not stop the run at all. The Chiefs ran the ball 46 times for 245 yards and a touchdown, and it led the Kansas City Chiefs to outgaining the Bills in the time of possession game by over 15 minutes. Now, running the ball with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Le'Veon Bell, Darrell Williams, and anybody else that can run the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs is something that they have been focusing on trying to do over the past couple of weeks. They ran the ball a lot against New Orleans, which led them to outgaining them in the time of possession game again. And it's just something in general that as long as they have somebody like Patrick Mahomes, who is the ultimate threat at throwing the ball probably in NFL history, having somebody or having a group of players that can run the ball well and run the ball as a group for 90 to 100 yards is just something that makes this team unstoppable. And defending the run is something that the Bills have still somewhat struggled with since that game. They've allowed 145 yards to the New England Patriots last week, and they allowed 140 yards to the Denver Broncos the week before. Now, even though both of those wins were pretty much blowout wins for the Buffalo Bills, it still is somewhat of a concerning thing to look at if you're a Bills fan or if you're just a fan of the Chiefs losing, because this is probably the one thing that Chiefs are still going to exploit when they play the Bills. However, if the Bills are able to get it to a point where the running stats just don't matter that much because they're still winning the game, that will be great. But I think with a team like the Chiefs, the first thing to stopping Patrick Mahomes is to get him to have to throw the ball 40 plus times, not have him be able to just throw the ball as many times as he wants because their offense is able to dictate the whole game. However, with all of that being said about the shaky run defense, the two things that any successful defense and any championship contending defense needs to do is they have to be able to get after the quarterback and they need to be able to turn the ball over on the defensive side of the ball. And that's two things that the Buffalo Bills have done very well, actually, since that Week 6 loss. These are two key aspects that basically only affect really the quarterback. The sack totals are something that not only puts pressure on the quarterback, but it also affects the turnover numbers as well, as the quarterback will probably fumble, the quarterback will probably throw more interceptions and make shaky decisions. And looking at the turnover and sack numbers for the Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, The two numbers of sacks and turnovers are actually something that the Buffalo Bills do a little bit better than the Kansas City Chiefs. They have more sacks than the Chiefs, and they are tied with the Chiefs in terms of turnovers. So I think on that side of the ball, even with that shaky run defense, the fact of the matter is they need to make it harder on Patrick Mahomes to be able to control the game the way he did that first time around. And if they're able to do that, then the ability to run the ball won't really matter for the Kansas City Chiefs because their biggest threat is Patrick Mahomes' arm. It doesn't necessarily matter what Clyde Edwards-Helaire does or Le'Veon Bell or Darrell Williams or whoever's running the ball. It doesn't necessarily matter what they're doing as long as they're making it hard on Patrick Mahomes. If he's turning the ball over and you're able to get sacks on Patrick Mahomes, then it doesn't necessarily matter what the Kansas City Chiefs do in the ground game. Now, another key in terms of being able to keep the Patrick Mahomes-led offense of the Kansas City Chiefs held down and limiting their ability to score points is the ability to actually keep the ball in their own hands and convert on third downs, which comparing them to not only the Chiefs, which they have a better percentage on third down against, but they also are the number one team in the league in terms of the third down percentage. So that's another thing in terms of comparing them to the Chiefs and deciding whether or not they're going to beat them is a key factor in my decision as to why I think they will beat the Chiefs. Now, to me, the overall reason as to why I think the Buffalo Bills not only have a shot against the Kansas City Chiefs, but have the best chance of taking down the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs if they end up coming against them, is the fact of the matter that the Buffalo Bills, with Brian Daboll calling plays and Josh Allen as a quarterback, they are very willing to not only not run the ball with their running backs, but just completely abandon their running backs in terms of getting them into the play calling. Running the ball and using their running backs is something that the Buffalo Bills just like to abandon during some points during their games. They usually like to use Zach Moss and Devin Singletary when they have a 7 to 10 point lead and they're just trying to bleed clock, or they're in certain situations where they want to use up a lot of the clock. So I think with that being said, I don't necessarily mean that as a negative for the Bills. I more mean it as a positive in the fact that when you're going against somebody like Patrick Mahomes, you have to have the ability to just abandon the run game and try to get big chunk passing plays throughout the game. Not only in key situations, but also just throughout the game in general, just because of the fact that you're going against possibly one of the most lethal offenses in NFL history. Now, one of the biggest things for the Buffalo Bills, in my eyes, is their ability to not only be one of the best scoring offenses in the league, as they actually have the 6th most points scored for their team, and they actually have the 4th most yards in terms of the rest of the league as well. But it's the fact that they do it probably more efficiently than anybody. They only have attempted the 12th most passing attempts in the NFL this year, and they've only attempted the 19th most rushing yards per game as well. And it's led them to have the 3rd best scoring offense when you compare them, their average drive. They score about 2.7 points per drive, which I said is 3rd in the league. They bleed a lot of clock as well with 3 minutes and 5 seconds on an average drive. And comparing them against the Kansas City Chiefs in the same categories, they score more points per drive than the Kansas City Chiefs, and they take up more time per drive as well than the Kansas City Chiefs. So even though that's somewhat of just a random statistic to look at, it is, I think, something to be aware of when comparing these two teams, when you compare how on an average drive their team is going to look. It also actually seems like the Buffalo Bills have an easier time scoring than the Kansas City Chiefs do. The Bills score on about 50% of their drives compared to about 48.4% of the drives for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I understand that's only a 1.6% difference. However, 1.6% could be 1 to 2 drives in a given game. And 1 to 2 drives where the Bills score anywhere from 6 to 14 points on those 2 drives can be monumental against a team like the Chiefs, where the Chiefs don't score on those 2 given drives. A 14-point swing for the Bills could end up winning the game for them. And at the end of the day, what this game is really going to come down to is which quarterback is going to be able to get into their rhythm easier and which quarterback is going to be able to lead his team to a win. And this game is more than likely going to be the AFC Championship game, and this game is more than likely going to be the team, in my opinion, that wins the Super Bowl. So I think with everything, that I've brought up, also given the fact that Josh Allen is already going to have a playoff game under his belt he's going to have one more playoff game under his belt if these two teams do face off in the AFC Championship. I think the Buffalo Bills, if they're able to really prepare at their highest level, Josh Allen is able to play at his highest level, and the rest of the team is able to follow suit, there's no reason why this team can't win the game. There's no reason why this Buffalo Bills team can't control the game. And with that being said, I think the Bills really do have a great shot at beating the Chiefs in the playoffs. With all of that being said, that's going to be the video for me. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave a like or a dislike down below, whichever you feel like. Any feedback from you all at this point is much appreciated. If you're new here or you're one of my returning 60-something subscribers, I appreciate you so much, and make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're a Bill or Chiefs fan, make sure you let me know what you thought about the video down below in the comments. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.